We went to the garage and we could see that there, in the darkness, my youngest son was smiling at us from inside the van. However, my son was behind us, hiding, scared of whatever was in there. This October of stories, my dear community, has been intense and has only kept increasing in terror and adrenaline, and it will continue like this. What awaits us is what's coming to close out the month. Today we present to you one of my favorite topics, because I feel like I've experienced things like this. Paranormal things that go beyond what is understandable, more complicated than a ghost. A feeling of bewilderment in the face of a glitch in reality, in front of ghosts that go beyond what horror movies have taught us. And I think that can be even more terrifying, but I'll let you be the judge because you, as always, have the final word. I invite you to stay until the end because today we're also going to tell you how to keep participating for more books, because we'll take the opportunity to give away as many as we can to give you a physical piece of who we are. I love you all very, very much. And let's go, because you're already listening to Night Stories. Goodbye, community. Have an excellent night. This morning, something very strange happened to me while I was going to catch the bus to work, and I still can't explain it. My name is Macarena García. I'm from Guadalajara, although due to planning reasons, I had to move temporarily to a town very close to the metropolitan area. One of those places where every day the workforce of Jalisco gets on public transportation and goes to make a living in Guadalajara or Zapopan. Yesterday I set my alarm for 5 in the morning. I had to be at the bus stop by 6:30, but the alarm never went off. I opened my eyes at 5:55. 55.55, damn, almost 6 in the morning. If I didn't run out, I'd miss the bus. I got up quickly, and I was a little happy because the neighbors had finally finished their never-ending party. It had been 3 whole days with music, and alcohol and songs until dawn. I fed my kittens, grabbed my things, and left like I do every day. The house is far from the bus stop, so I always make sure I don't forget anything. But as soon as I walked out the door, a very strange breeze hit me in the face. A cold, strong air, as if someone had blown directly at me, made me feel really strange. I thought it was because I hadn't had breakfast and kept walking when suddenly, as if he had come out of a video game, a guy appeared in front of me. He was wearing a Chivas jersey, but it was really old, from the 2009 season. I greeted him like I always do. I have the habit of greeting everyone, as if that would protect me from any bad intentions. But the boy just stared at me like I was a stranger. He didn't answer me. I walked a few more steps and something wasn't right. The neighborhood I know wasn't there. Well, it was there, but it was different. The things that over the years people have painted, expanded, personalized, all of that had disappeared. All the houses were white. Many looked new, like when they're just handed over. Others were still under construction. The little path I walk up every morning wasn't even there. It didn't exist. In its place, there was a huge thicket, as if no one had ever passed through there. I never stopped. My heart started to race. The first thing I did was look for my phone in my pants pocket, but my transit card wasn't there either. I only had some coins and my keys. I got a horrible feeling. I wanted to go back home, but my whole body started to hurt, as if walking had become difficult. I saw a little tamale stand and I walked over to catch my breath. The man was listening to the radio. They were saying there had been a huge earthquake in Turkey, talking about damage and deaths. But I swear to you, I had already heard that news before. I remembered it from years ago. I got more nervous. I approached the stand. I saw the coins and bills the man had, and they were like the ones we used when I was in middle school. Different. I asked him if I was in the right direction to take the electric transport, and he, without even turning completely to look at me, said, "There's no such thing here. You're looking for the 380. The few people who passed by looked at me strangely, as if I didn't belong there, as if I was going somewhere I shouldn't. There, and only then did I understand it. Everything was fine. Everything was correct. The one who shouldn't have been there was me. I turned around and decided to go back home. I'd figure out how to let them know I was sick. I mean, who would believe that? I walked for what felt like an hour, an endless road. My body moved forward on autopilot because part of my mind recognized the route, even though it didn't look anything like the one I know. I climbed a small hill, closed my eyes for a few seconds, breathed, took deep breaths over and over to try to calm myself down. I felt dizzy, losing my balance, and when I opened my eyes, I was in front of the neighboring subdivision close to my house. Just like every other day, as if nothing had happened, I ran all the way home. The street was very empty, but I just wanted to go back to see my cats, to see my normal life. When I turned the corner to my block, I heard the neighbors' music again, the same party, as if it had never stopped. I went in, my little cats were sleeping on the couch, and there was my phone, my transit card, my debit card, those things I never leave home without. Everything was where I had left it, everything, as if I had never left. My hands were shaking. I grabbed my phone to call an Uber, and I felt the worst because when I looked at it, the phone said it was 4:35 in the morning. Hello, good evening, Night Stories community. My name is Marilyn, and I am the mother of Alejandro and Samuel. My husband, Eduardo, and I have lived here in Houston, Texas for many years. My children were born here in this city, and they started listening to this podcast during the pandemic, when we were all locked down and looking for anything to distract ourselves. Then they showed it to their dad, and since then we play it whenever we travel together by car. And now it's become one of those moments that stay in your memory. My husband is always the one who keeps them grounded, always with their feet on the ground, so they don't get scared over anything. That's why what happened recently surprised me. We were listening to the episode about doppelgangers, and I didn't even know that's what they were called. That thing that can pretend to be someone else, like it's an exact copy but with something bad inside. That day when the episode ended, Eduardo looked at the three of us very seriously and said, Do you remember what happened in Cochera?" He said it just like that, as if it was nothing, and the rest of us just stood there, looking at each other. The kids had the same look on their faces as I did, like they didn't understand. And then suddenly my heart skipped a beat. And that moment I had kept somewhere, who knows where, the one we never talked about. Then it suddenly came back as if someone had opened a door we had kept tightly shut. That happened in 2015. Alejandro was 7 years old. He was very cheerful, very talkative. Samuel was 10 and was in that stage where everything made him angry quickly, like he hit early adolescence. He was always ahead of his time. It was a Sunday. I remember we'd gone to the supermarket to do the weekly shopping. I remember we got home late and, as always, we were all unloading bags and putting things away. Eduardo parked the car in the garage, which was next to the kitchen, and closed the automatic door because it was extremely hot. I was putting the meat in the freezer and I heard the kids arguing. As always, one saying the other doesn't help or that someone did less or carried fewer bags. And suddenly Alejandro said he forgot his iPad in the car. I told him to go get it. He left without saying anything else like he always did, but not even 10 seconds passed. When he came back running, his eyes were wide open, out of breath, and he stopped dead at the entrance to the kitchen. Samuel went up to him and said, "And the iPad, dummy, what did you go for then?" Alejandro trembled and muttered something none of us understood. Samuel got annoyed and said, What are you saying?" And he got closer to hear him. Alejandro, very quietly, without taking his eyes off the garage, replied that I am there, sitting in the car. My heart stopped. I thought he was joking, but his face wasn't the face he made when he was joking. Eduardo saw him clearly and stopped what he was doing. Samuel, who was always very brave when it came to defending his brother, walked toward the garage. Everything was dark in there. The kitchen light barely lit up a small part of the floor. The car was locked tight, but Samuel moved a little closer. I was about to tell him to come back when I heard him scream, a loud scream, real fear, like I had never heard from him before. "Mom, Dad, there's someone there. There's someone in the car." Alejandro started crying and ran to hide behind his dad. I quickly went to the door and managed to see what Samuel had seen. In the back seat of the car, it was Alejandro. Or something that looked like Alejandro, because it was identical, the same clothes, the same round little face. But he was standing too straight, too upright, as if he were taller and thinner. Disproportionate. And he was amazed, smiling, a smile that wasn't childlike, a smile that seemed forced, showing us exaggeratedly white, extremely white teeth that looked fake. And the worst part was that he was looking straight at the four of us at the door, as if waiting for us to come closer. Eduardo reacted before anyone else. He didn't push us back. He turned around, and from the shelf next to the door, he took the weapon he always kept there. He went into the garage and turned on the light. At the same time, the light took a fraction of a second to turn on, a fraction long enough to feel that being was still there. But when the light came on, there was nothing there. The car was empty and the back door was open. My Alejandro was still there, holding onto my leg, crying. I stood there motionless. I thought I was going to faint. Eduardo checked everything. He looked under the car, opened the trunk, looked everywhere, and found nothing. We were at the only entrance. There's this garage. It leads directly to the kitchen. The car door was completely open and none of us heard anyone open it. There were no windows in the garage. There was no way anyone could have escaped. Eduardo stayed silent for a moment, then lowered the gun and put it on the ground. I hugged the kids, and when I felt it, that's when I started shaking too. Samuel kept repeating, "We saw it, right?" Did we all see it? Yes, we saw it, I told him. That night, Eduardo called some of his uncles. They're very Christian, always praying for everything. They went the next day with a huge old Bible. They prayed right there in the garage. Very serious, very worried. Samuel and Alejandro were listening from the living room. I didn't know whether to cry or act strong for the kids. We never saw anything again. We never heard anything strange again. No one got sick. No one changed. Nothing else happened. Life went on as normal. But we never, ever talked about it again. It was as if all of us, without agreeing on it, had decided it was better to forget about it. Until a few weeks ago when my husband mentioned it while listening to your show, it was like a blindfold had been removed from my memory. The four of us remembered it at the same time, and yet we didn't. Since then, Cochera started feeling the same as that strange night, as if something was still in there, somewhere. I know the mind can block traumatic memories, I understand that, but there's something that doesn't let us rest, something that creeps in every time I think about it. If that being looked exactly like my son, if he smiled with that confidence, if he was looking at us as if he already knew us. Was it the first time we saw him or the first time we remembered him? Did we forget something or did it make us forget something? Did we forget something else? Thank you, community. Greetings from the García family from us here. We're right in the middle of this episode, community, and I want to take this opportunity to tell you that thanks to you, the book in Mexico is selling out. Thank you for buying up those 50,000 copies. And if you don't have it yet and you find it, buy it. Seriously, I'm not going to let what happened with the comic happen again, where it's sold very slowly at first and now it's no longer available. People ask us about it a lot. They ask us about it every day, but there's no plan to reprint it. But we do have good news for the community in Spain and Chile because a new edition has just arrived in those countries. A different edition, special for you, a book of night stories. A very limited print run with only a few copies, but look for it at your favorite online bookstores. There should definitely be some out there. And we would love it, really. We would love for you to take home a little piece of night stories and a little piece of Mexico. Oh, and before we continue, greetings to Misiones, Argentina, where they tell us we have a lot of listeners. I haven't been there. I only know Buenos Aires and Patagonia, but I hope we can visit you very soon. Let's keep going with the episode. You haven't finished today's dose yet. Let's continue with more stories of the night. What's up, Uriel? What's up, community? I've been a fan of Stories of the Night for several years. My story might not be the scariest, but it is strange, and I still wonder what really happened to me that day. My name is Julian Chavez. I was about 14 years old, and I lived in a small village in Xilitla, San Luis Potosi, where I'm from. There, it's full of huge hills and very green trees because of the humid climate. It rains almost all year, so the vegetation always seems like it wants to swallow up the roads. One afternoon, my girlfriend, 2 cousins, and I went to Quebrado Hill, our name for it, to take pictures. We like to go watch the sunset. We stayed at the top of the hill until around 6 in the evening when it was already starting to get dark. My girlfriend lived in another small village, and my cousins planned to walk her home. I planned to go alone since I had an errand for my mom, and honestly, I wasn't concerned about it. I knew those paths very well. Over there, the trails are narrow and hardly anyone passes by. And in 1997, even less. I didn't have a flashlight or a cell phone. Back then, only a few people had a phone, no one I knew, and besides, they weren't like the ones now that have a flashlight. I was walking fast because you could hardly see anything over there, and suddenly the path split in two. I had never seen that before. I had never been there before, a fork in the road. It was really strange. I stopped, hesitated, but in the end I chose one and kept going. I don't know how long I walked. I started to realize that this path was taking me to another hill, a really big one. It was already completely dark and I didn't want to go back. I thought it would be better to reach the top, get my bearings, and go down the other side, but the path ended. All of a sudden, there was no trail anymore, just brush, thorns, and silence. Even so, I kept going. I had already come too far. I told myself I'm already at the top, this must be where I am. But no, I didn't see anything I recognized. Suddenly, I came to a pasture full of cows, and tried to remember if I had ever passed through there before. But no, that place didn't exist for me. That's when fear set in. I felt very, very far from my home. I don't know, it was a strange feeling. I no longer knew if walking was bringing me closer or making me more lost. So I made a decision to sleep there, wait for the light or the sun, and then I would see how to get back. My mom would be worried, yes, but I preferred that. Walking blindly and getting lost who knows where. I lay down on the grass and fell asleep. I didn't know, for how long. The moonlight was the only thing lighting up the ground for me. Some voices woke me up. I hid behind some rocks, and when I saw them getting closer, they passed about 10 meters away, and there were 3 of them. They looked like normal people, but their clothes looked really old, like clothes from a long time ago, from way back. When they left, I decided to follow the path where they had passed. That trail was clearly marked, but I walked in the opposite direction from them because I felt that my house had to be that way. Little by little, I started to recognize the place, but it also looked different, like I was seeing another time of the same ranch. There had been electricity in that place for years, but that night, not a single light was on. The few houses that were there were still lit with candles or oil lamps. I started to get really scared. I reached the main road. It was a highway, but now it just looked like a wide stone path. I kept walking and came across some people, but I didn't know anyone. Their clothes, their hats looked like they were from the time of the Revolution. And then something happened that I'll never forget. I spoke to them. I said good evening, but nobody answered me. Nobody turned around. It was as if I wasn't there. They kept talking among themselves, and I was just a meter away, and they didn't see me. I swear to you, Uriel. I swear to you, community. I didn't feel like it was a dream. I don't know how long I walked like that, with my heart wanting to burst out, until suddenly everything started to light up. The houses opened up. They looked modern. There were poles with electric lights. The path turned back into a road, like always. I got worried when I saw people I already knew, because I thought it must be really late. I stopped by the store, and luckily it was open, so I could buy the things my mom had asked me to get. I asked what time it was, and the lady told me it was 8 o'clock at night, 8 o'clock, and I had already separated from my girlfriend. At 6, I slept on the hill. I walked for hours. It was impossible that it was only 8 o'clock. I got home. I didn't tell my mom anything. I just took a shower and went to sleep, but then the problems started. I stopped eating. I didn't even want to get up. I became very weak. My mom took me to my grandma, who knows how to cure fright. She cleansed me, prayed for me. She saved me, because later I told my mom that if she hadn't cured me in time, I would have died, that the fright I had was very strong, that she should ask me what had happened. But I never told her anything. I thought no one would believe me. Until today, with you, I dare to tell it, hoping that someone, at least one person in the whole community, will believe me. Now, after all these years, I think maybe I walked into the past as if I had accidentally stepped into another time. In the same place, but in another time, I accidentally ended up where I wasn't supposed to be. Today I live in Monterey, and right now I'm working in Little Rock, Arkansas. Over there, Jalidla, I only go to visit, but I've never walked through those hills again. Hello, Uriel. Good evening, community. I love you all, even though I don't know you. I'm from a small town in Oaxaca, though I no longer live there. And I want to share something from my childhood, a story that is still told in the town, although there are hardly any people left who remember it well. I was about 9 years old when it all happened. I remember that my mom always talked to Don Matías's wife, a man from the town, very hardworking, very serious, very hardworking. 2 children, a boy and a girl, teenagers at that time, older than me. One day, Don Matías went to the woods to get firewood there in the town, the most normal thing in the world. But that night, he didn't come back. At first, there wasn't even any alarm, because sometimes people stay in the hills if night falls on them. But days went by, and nothing. They searched for him. Men with machetes, rifles, and lanterns went into the woods, but they didn't find even his clothes, his bag, nothing. And so his wife had to go on with her life. The children grew up, went to work in the city, and the woman was left alone. Sad 7 years went by like that. 7 years I remember well, until one day he came back. It was around lunchtime on a day that seemed boring, just an ordinary day. When we heard someone coming down the dirt road and the dogs started barking, my mom went out first to see, then I did. It was Mr. Matías, wearing the same clothes with the same face as if he had left just the afternoon before. Not a single new wrinkle, not a single change. The surprise was so great that several neighbors came out with my mom. They talked to him, touched him. He was there, completely confused but alive. My mom asked him, "Where were you, Mr. Matías?" And he just frowned, looking at everything as if it were the first time. The ladies brought him water and food. They wanted him to sit down. He turned to look at them, but he didn't recognize them. He looked worried, like a lost child, and then he asked, "Where? Why do you look so different, comadre?" "And you?" a man said to his friend. "Why are you bald?" My mom was shocked because it seemed like he had come from 7 years ago, like he had been lost. Yesterday, suddenly, the door of his house opened and his wife came out. When she saw him, she almost fainted. The lady stopped her. She wanted to hug him, but he stopped her with his hands as if he was scared. After hugging and kissing him, she ran to the store's phone, the only one in town, to call her children and tell them to come back, that their dad was there, that he was alive, that he had come back. I got a little closer to see up close, and I'll never forget how the man's face looked. It was like he was listening to something the rest of us couldn't hear, looking toward the woods, as if someone was talking from over there. My mom told him to stay still, not to go anywhere, but without saying anything else, he started running toward the hill. No one could stop him or catch up to him. He didn't even look back. He disappeared among the trees into the woods, and he never came back. His wife stayed behind again, waiting a long time for him to come back one day, but she left this world without ever knowing anything, alone. The children never returned to the village. They made their lives in the city. The little house was left alone. No one moved in to live there. Honestly, since that day, I never went near the woods alone again, because nobody knew where Don Matías had been for the past 7 years, or how long he had been there. That's it. Really? We only know that when we saw him, he hadn't aged, and that when he came back, time wanted to take him away again. Have a very good night and hug your loved ones as if they were going to the mountain and would never come back. Community? In the previous episode, we mentioned the winners of the last 2 giveaways, but you can still participate because we will announce 10 more winners in the Halloween special. Comment with October of Stories. Your comment can say anything, but as long as that phrase is there, you're already participating. Don't forget that you can also win books by following us on Instagram or TikTok, where you can find us as HCDN Official. All the others are fakes. Follow us, leave us a comment, and on Tuesday we will announce the winners of 5 and 5 autographed books, which we will send to you wherever you are. Thank you for being part of October of Stories. Thank you for being part of Stories of the Night.